Jeg hedder Astrid Munk, og jeg er koordinator for udstillingen her, og jeg sidder i supportteamet ved Dandrite. Så Dandrite er et center i hjerneforskning, som er støttet af Lundbæk-fonden. Vi bor på Aarhus Universitet, hvor vi har en masse forskningsgrupper, som arbejder med hjerneforskning, grundforskning, og det er alt fra celler til adfærd. Vi har forskningsgrupper, der arbejder med Parkinsons og forskellige psykiatriske lidelser. Så Dandrite er et grundforskningscenter, så man kan sige, at det vi ser på, det er altså både den raske og den uraske hjerne. Og vores forskning kan bidrage til udvikling inden for medicin. Ja.
Og I har lavet den her, eller I har været med til at arrangere den her udstilling, som vi står foran lige nu.
Det har vi. Ja.
Kan du prøve at sætte på ord på, hvad det er for en udstilling?
Ja, så udstillingen den består af en række værker, og de her værker de er lavet af hjerneforskere, forskere og studerende. Og de har sådan set oprindeligt været med i en konkurrence, en intern konkurrence i et partnerskab, som vi er med i. Der har vi lavet sådan en årlig konkurrence, hvor forskerne har kunnet sende et billede ind, og så er der blevet stemt på, hvad synes folk var det fedeste billede. Og så sad vi i supportteamet, os koordinatorer, vi så på alle de her billeder, som jo ligesom bare hobede sig op, og vi synes jo, der var sindssygt mange virkelig flotte og sjove og spøjse værker fra vores forskere, som egentlig bare lå der. Og så fik vi idéen til at lave den her vandrende kunstudstilling, som kombinerer kunst og videnskab.
Så de billeder, de sendte ind, det var egentlig ikke, det var ikke tanken, at det skulle være kunst til at starte med, eller hvordan?
Altså jeg tror da, vi synes det var kunst, og de synes også det var kunst, men det var mest rettet til deres egne kollegaer, kan man sige. Så det har været en kombination af, at de så noget sjovt i mikroskopet. Pludselig fik de en idé, det her ligner noget helt andet. Eller også nogen, der har siddet med akvarel og brugt tid på at male de her værker. Et eller andet, altså, hvor de jo laver bånd imellem deres forskning og kunsten.
Hvordan kan det være, at I så tænkte, det her det er noget, der skal ud til andre?
Jamen, jeg tror, det startede, fordi vi har på instituttet er der en gang, hvor der bliver skiftet ud i kunstudstillingen. Alle mulige gallerister og sådan noget får lov til at hænge deres ting op. Og så kom vi bare til at snakke om, måske skulle vi hænge de her værker op en af gangene. Og så var responsen super god. Der var mange, der syntes, det var flot og burde deles mere. Og så gik vi egentlig bare i gang med at kontakte biblioteker og sygehuset, hvor den også har været, og rådhuset, hvor den har været, og alle mulige steder var faktisk åbne for at have det her hængende.
Så der har været medvind i projektet, lyder det som om?
Bestemt. Det har der. Den har været sådan på vandrende udstilling hele 2025 og fortsætter her i 2026.
Yes. My name is Andrea Morreno, and I work as an associate professor at the Department of Biomedicine in Aarhus University. I'm working with memory research in investigating the basic mechanisms that override or that rule memory learning and forgetting in the brain. So in particular, I'm focused on discovering what happens in the brain when we learn and forget something, with the goal of applying this to the clinical setting afterwards.
And besides this, you also do art?
Yeah.
Do you call yourself an artist?
Well, not really. So I just do it as a hobby to let steam out from work. But I've always done it since I was a kid, and it's my way of being creative and having a hobby on the side.
Andrea, this is your artwork that is on the exhibition right now. Can you explain a bit about what it is?
Yes,
what it is?
Of course. So in the brain we have neurons. Those are the brain nervous cells, and neurons connect to each other by these contacts that we call synapses, where they come very close to each other, but they do not touch. So there is a gap in this contact, and that is what we call the synapse. The neuron that connects to the next neuron sends neurotransmitters, and those transfer information. In this painting, I'm representing what we call the presynaptic neuron, which is this contact in the top, that is the neuron sending information, and the postsynaptic neuron, which is here at the bottom. So when we learn something, this connection between neurons becomes stronger. It gets strengthened by information acquisition. And what we don't know is what happens in the brain when we lose this information or when we forget something. So one of the theories for forgetting that has been posited is that there is a spontaneous release of neurotransmitters, of these molecules that fall into the next neuron to communicate information. And this spontaneous release is causing a slow decay of this strengthening of the connection. So I represented this spontaneous release as a gold leaf. This is a gold leaf freckles, and they're fallen onto the postsynaptic neuron. And wherever they fall, they will take part in the erasure or the forgetting of that memory. And what I want to represent here by the woman with the umbrella is she is protecting some of those memories with the umbrella from being reached by these neurotransmitters, and therefore those memories are protected from being forgotten. So it's a bit of a nostalgic painting, if you may.
Do you think when people come here and look at your painting, do you think that they recognize what you just said? Do you think that is that something that they can get from the painting?
So I am not sure if they will recognize the specific mechanism, but I have gotten some impressions from people that they can see a little bit of sadness or nostalgia or even hopefulness in this painting that maybe was behind my intention when I painted it. So even if people cannot or do not know, because they still don't know the information about the mechanism, but a lot of people are very sensitive to the feeling that the painting portrays, so they can see through it. Yeah.
And also there is a little explanation next to it, so that people can get the same explanation that you explained.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. So next to each painting, we have a little text that conveys what was the meaning or what the painting is trying to say or communicate.
Can you explain a bit more about how you made it? Is it only made by painting?
Yeah, so it's oil painting and gold leaf. So these are these tiny, very thin sheets of gold that we can stick to the painting. and then the rest is just painted. So it's all brushwork. Yeah.
And of course, this is not the original one.
No, this is a print of the original painting, but it's on the actual size. So the painting is actually this size.
Man kan sige, for mange mennesker, så er det måske lidt noget, der er sådan lidt fjernt fra deres hverdag, hjerneforskning.
Ja.
Men hvorfor er det relevant at give folk et indblik i sådan ud i det offentlige rum?
Jamen, altså for det første, fordi vi jo alle sammen går rundt med en hjerne, så synes vi, at vi vil rigtig gerne prøve at vække folks nysgerrighed på, hvad forskning og hvad forskere tænker om hjernen. Og også for at vise et helt andet billede. Normalt forbinder vi nok hjerneforskere med nogle hvide kitler og noget klinisk miljø. Men det her med at se, at der er rigtig meget menneske ind i forskningen. Og man skal have den her kreativitet og nogle gange skæve hjerne for egentlig at kunne bedrive den her gode forskning.
Okay, kan du prøve at uddybe det, når du siger, at man skal have kreativitet og en skæv hjerne?
Jamen, jeg tror, det handler om, at nogle gange så skal man jo kunne se i sin data, hvad er det, der stikker ud? Hvad er det for en vej, vi skal gå ned af? Jeg hører ofte forskere sige, at vi startede med det her projekt, men så opdagede vi lige en eller anden lille ting, som vi var nysgerrige på. Vi gik ned ad den her vej, og så lige pludselig brugte vi 3 år på et projekt, vi slet ikke var klar over, at vi skulle forfølge. Så det her med, altså, at det er mennesker, det er ikke bare Excel-ark og sådan klinisk data.
Nej, fordi det var nemlig måske også det, jeg tænkte, at jeg blev lidt overrasket over, at det var forskere, der havde lavet kunsten, fordi jeg tænkte, det er jo modsat hinanden.
Præcis.
Men det er det ikke nødvendigt.
Overhovedet ikke. Det tænker jeg ikke. Jeg tænker, det er et andet perspektiv på deres forskning, og det er en ny form for formidling, de laver, når de formidler det gennem kunsten.
How did you become interested in art and working artistically?
I have to say that is something that always appealed to me as a little kid. I'm a single child, so I spent a lot of time with the grandparents while parents were working, and spent a lot of time by myself, being quiet in a desk. So my hobby was to paint and draw since I was a kid. So I always had a preference for painting as opposed to all the types of creative activities, for example music, which I'm terrible at. So it was always a preference of mine. Yeah. But I don't have any formal training in art or painting.
And can you maybe try and explain, because at least I know that I thought a lot about science and art being two opposite things.
Yes. So yeah, it's generally perceived as very opposite things, but I think they do share a lot of similarities. For example, in research, we often have to be very creative because we are at the forefront of the knowledge that we actually have, and we need to design new ways to ask new questions and devise new methodologies to answer those questions. So creativity is in the everyday life of a researcher. And at the same time, we have also lots of traces of science in art. Artists, willingly or not, employ a lot of techniques that are also employed in neuroscience in our case. So I find that there is actually a huge overlap between those.
Can you explain a little bit more about those techniques that are overlapping?
So, for example, in a painting, where there would be a focal point where the artist wants the spectator or the viewer to focus their view. And that is exactly the way that the human eye perceives the world. We have a focal point, and then around it there is less defined details. So when we have something like a painting of a portrait, the amount of details in the focal point are much more dense than in the periphery, and this mimics the visual pathways in the brain.
Okay. And today we're here because you have the exhibition, and you actually contributed to the exhibition. Can you explain a bit about how this came to be?
Yeah, so of course I'm a full-time scientist and full-time artist, if you mean, which means that whenever I am working, I see the artistic part in it, and when I'm producing art, I see or my scientific ideas or my research also filter through to my art. So I end up representing a lot of scientific concepts in my art. And I found that a very good vessel to communicate science to the public.
But I would also like to ask you how you actually got into this entire field of memory research.
Yeah.
What interested you about that?
So for me, what is fascinating about memory and the processes underlying memory is that memory makes up all that we are, the identity that makes us human beings. For example, knowing a new language or your mother tongue is a matter of memory. All the experiences you have, all the things you like and dislike, that is a matter of your own experience in life. And we can see how when we experience to lose memory in bits and pieces, we disengage as a person and our personality kind of fades away. So I think memory is actually one of the most impressive and interesting achievements of the human brain.
And can you also explain a little, because you mentioned that you do art to kind of let out some steam.
Yeah.
Can you try and describe your everyday? Like when do you do art? Is it after you go home from work or?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's different. It varies. In academia, we have different periods. There's periods where I'm doing a lot of experiments, and this is very consuming work mentally. And I suffer from insomnia, and I need to do some creative activity that allows me to relax and achieve, or maybe to de-stress a little bit after a long day of work. And that's what I use painting for. Yeah.
And is it just the things that you have done throughout the day, do they influence the art that you do?
Yes, definitely. So I have a lot of paintings. For example, I work with synaptic plasticity, which is the mechanism by which neurons, the cells in the brain, connect to each other, and these connections can change, can grow or decrease. And this is in the basis of memory. When they grow, we acquire information, and potentially when they decrease, we lose information. And I find neurons and their connectivity extremely beautiful, actually, in their shapes and how they communicate to each other, and all the molecular mechanisms behind that. So of course, when I'm working, I do bring that into my paintings, and it does influence. I do a lot of abstractions of scientific concepts in my paintings, which is of course a result of a constant thought about these concepts and a constant exposure.
Do you ever get, because it seems like you think about memory and your research when you're working, but also when you're trying to let out steam. Do you ever get a little bit fed up with this entire research work and the work with memory?
I don't really. I'm really passionate about it, and I do read about it in my free time, if you will. I am very much into it. I have not gotten tired of it yet.
Why do you think it's relevant for people in the public to see art that has been made by scientists?
So there's many reasons. I think from the point of view of scientific communication and public outreach, I think it can be a very good entryway to show people some concepts that may be a little bit drier or harder to explain to a lay audience. But through art, we can get the public interested in these concepts and explain them, because at the end, I do believe that the public is really interested in science and neuroscience and what we have to say. We just need to find a better way of communicating it. And sometimes art can be that bridge.
Do you think this is also a problem? Because you, as Astrid mentioned, what you're working with is basic research.
Yeah.
Does that make it more difficult than if it was research for a certain problem that you're trying to solve?
Definitely it does, but that is also where the creativity comes into play. As researchers, we are also teachers, and we need to come up with very many different ways of explaining very complex concepts from a very basic foundation and build from that so that students can get to understand them. So I believe that public outreach is very much a similar process, where we need to meet people where they are and explain them these things in the best way we can, because everyone can understand. No one is born knowing these things. So the same way we got to understand them, everyone can do.
So when you're trying to tell something through art, which is more abstract than your research, which is, very concrete.
Yeah.
Could you risk then that people will misunderstand?
I imagine so. So there is always a risk of falling into too much abstraction, that leading to people misunderstanding a concept. That could happen. However, that is, for example, why in this exhibition we have paired the artworks with a little text explanation to kind of guide or communicate what we wanted to portray in the paintings. At the same time, even if a concept is slightly misunderstood, I think it's still an achievement to gain the attention from the public, so they will be interested in knowing more, and they will find more from them by themselves.
Do you have a message with the work that you have created?
Yes, I'm not sure it's a single message, but I think I would like to communicate how important memory is, and also how beautiful the brain is, and how amazingly interesting it is. And I would like to gain the attention of people into being interested about what their brain does every day for them. Maybe it's something we take for granted, but I think it's incredibly interesting. So I would just like to raise more awareness about the brain and biology in general.
Is the knowledge about the brain and the mind, is it something that people can actually draw some benefits from in their daily life?
I believe so. For example, when we understand how we create memories and what are the factors that help us create memories and the factors that do not, we can perhaps willingly establish conditions that are good for learning when we want to learn something. For example, putting ourselves in a new environment may help with acquiring new concepts, and that can be useful for everyday life as well.
So now that you are working within the field of learning,
Yeah.
Is art something that can benefit learning? Is that something that you can say?
I definitely think so, and that is because there are different angles. So on the one hand, any artistic pursuit will benefit learning directly and also indirectly, because there is a huge benefit into engaging the different brain systems in different actions. The same way as it's not the same to read and underline something from a physical piece of paper rather than watching it on TV, because it's engaging more of our senses, and therefore the information absorption is much greater. When we are trying to be creative, we are also training our brain to be more plastic and more flexible, which will be then useful in other activities we do in our life. So I think we can greatly benefit from that.
Har du fået nogle tilbagemeldinger på udstillingen fra de steder, hvor den har været?
Ja, vi får mange gode tilbagemeldinger, både altså at der er børn og skoler henne og kigge. Ja, så vores fornemmelse er, at folk de tager positivt mod det.
Er det noget, man lærer noget af det, kan man sige? Eller er meningen med, at man skal blive nysgerrig?
Jeg tror først og fremmest, det handler om at vække nysgerrigheden og se på, hvad kommer der ud af forskning. Ja, fordi på den måde så er det er jo meget, meget specialiseret, det forskning, de bedriver. Ja. Så det er ikke, fordi man nødvendigvis skal forstå de detaljer, men det at forstå, at der er en passion fra dem, der laver det, det tror jeg kan være med til at rykke et eller andet. Jeg tror, at det bliver mere nærværende for folk, når det bliver formidlet gennem noget, der er æstetisk, og noget, der er farverigt og sanseligt. Jeg tror på en eller anden måde, altså, at man oplever, at man må gerne stille nogle spørgsmål, og man må gerne stille alle mulige spørgsmål. Jeg tror, nogle gange så kan det være intimiderende at sidde over for en naturvidenskabelig forsker, fordi man tænker, de ved ja og nej, altså de ved alle svarene, ikke? Så det her med at være i det her mere sådan abstrakte univers, hvor der kan stilles mange flere forskellige spørgsmål.
Men nu nævner du også selv, at det er et abstrakt univers.
Ja.
Og forskningen er jo ikke, det skal jo gerne være, rimelig konkret, ikke? Er der ikke en fare for, at folk de også kan misforstå noget?
Jeg tror ikke sådan nødvendigvis, det er så vigtigt, hvad de forstår fra den her udstilling. Jeg tror mere, det er vigtigt, at de forstår, at vi laver noget forskning. Og at det ser ud på alle mulige måder. Og at folk de kan få lov til at være med i det og tage del i det. Og måske gennem det her kan de begynde at stille nogle spørgsmål, som de ellers ikke havde stillet. Vi har fået funding fra Forskningsdøgn til at udvide udstillingen, så vi tilføjer 10 nye værker, som vi så vi udvider udstillingen og deltager i Forskningsdøgn, som foregår i april i hele Danmark.
Og kan du lige prøve at sætte på, hvad Forskningsdøgn er?
Ja, så Forskningsdøgn, det er en uge, hvor forskningsinstitutioner landet over, de sætter fokus på at formidle deres forskning til et bredt publikum. Og det kan man opleve. Man kan opleve alle mulige forskellige events rundt omkring i landet. Udstillinger og foredrag og standaktiviteter, alt muligt.
Så det vi ser på i dag, det er sådan set kun begyndelsen på?
Ja, det synes vi. Ja, vi synes klart, at forskning og videnskab, at kunst og videnskab sammen, det kan noget helt særligt.